All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sean O'Laughlin. I am in the education department here at GSA, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us for this webinar today. I hope everyone's day is going really, really well, and I'm excited to do another one of these. Allison, we did this last night, and we're going to do it one more time for everyone. I do want to remind everybody that if you have questions throughout this presentation or comments, or if you want to just let us know where you're tuning in from, go ahead and type all that into the chat box in the bottom right corner of your screen, and we will be able to kind of bank some of those questions and address them at the end of the presentation. So please don't be shy. Get that chat going and make sure you get any questions that come out. If you do have questions later on after we end the webinar, we are going to be supplying Allison's email address at the end, so you'll be able to send questions to her and she can connect you with the best person to answer those for you. This webinar is also being recorded today, so just so everybody knows that. And I think that's all of the housekeeping that I have. So Allison, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thanks, John. Thank you, everyone, for joining our call today, and welcome to our first inaugural Retail Endorser Update. I'm Allison Harris. I'm the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for GSA, and I joined a little over 7 months ago, and I've had the chance to meet many of you, and I'm looking forward to meeting a lot more of you. And we decided to have these calls every quarter so that we could keep you updated what we're working on. We could have offer an opportunity for you to ask questions, and just in general for us to be more closely aligned and make sure that we know that we are we're partnering as closely together as we can. You play a vital role in in advancing responsible seafood practices. GSA works closely with everyone in the seafood supply chain in order to develop standards that provide assurances for responsible seafood practices. And then you're our connection with the customer. So we listen closely to you, what you're saying that your customers want, what you're looking forward to doing to play your part in advancing responsible seafood practices. And our partnership together is really vital for moving this industry forward. So thank you very much for all of your partnership with us. And thank you for selecting suppliers that have chosen to be certified by GSA. They've invested time and money and energy into developing the best business practices they can. And your selection of them is probably the most important thing that you can do to continue the furthering of responsible seafood practices throughout the industry. I'm going to start out, like I think we always should, with our vision. Here at GSA, our overall vision and the reason why we're here is to create a world that embraces the role of responsible seafood in meeting global nutrition needs. Our world's population is growing, and if we want to have a hope to be able to feed everybody, we have to treat our resources responsibly. And that's the whole reason behind GSA, to make sure that we can meet these global needs. We're an international NGO, we're a nonprofit, and we're dedicated to promoting responsible seafood practices in 3 ways. We promote them through education, advocacy, and third-party assurances. Those assurances are our certification programs. We offer best aquaculture practices for farmed seafood and best seafood practices for wild seafood. For our education products, we have our Responsible Seafood Summit, which is our annual conference. Many of you know that by its former name of GOAL. We have rebranded it. It is now the Responsible Seafood Summit, and it's the gathering place for all of the thought leaders in the seafood supply chain that are advancing responsible practices. Our Aquademia podcast, many of you are listeners, and you may have recognized that voice. Sean O'Loughlin introduced me this morning, and he's the host of our Aquademia podcast. The podcast covers a variety of topics in responsible seafood, both wild and farmed. And one emphasis we have is to provide information to the next gen of seafood professionals. So some of our content on the podcast helps them understand what careers are available. And finally, our Responsible Seafood Advocate is our online publication that covers all aspects of responsible seafood throughout the supply chain, both wild and farmed. The next section of this update is to talk to you a little bit about things that are happening behind the scenes in our organization and to share them with you. First of all, I mentioned our Responsible Seafood Summit. We're really looking forward to this fall's event. We're going to be in St. John, New Brunswick. This is our first time in St. John, and it's just a vibrant city that is a real working seafood community, and it could not be a better host for our upcoming summit. So we hope you all can join us in Canada the first week of October. And for 2024, we know we'll be in Scotland. We're in the final stages right now of choosing our exact location and dates. So stay tuned. That information will be coming out shortly. Another news item that I believe I reached out to many of you individually to share this news, this is another collaboration that we're super excited about. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with RFM. This is the Alaska-based entity that offers a fisheries standard for responsible fisheries management. The reason why we partnered with RFM is GSA is committed to developing standards that cover the entire industry, but we do not have a fisheries standard. We don't intend to develop a fisheries standard. Instead, we're partnering with entities that offer GSSI benchmarked standards, and RFM is one of those partners. We believe that this offers the industry choice and it offers them an opportunity to look at how they're attaining their certifications. And if it's a way for them to reduce costs, we're all for it. We really believe in the power of choice for our community. The next initiative that we're working on is we're partnering with the University of New Hampshire. One of the things that I found in meeting with many of you in the industry, there's one topic that almost everybody brings up, and it's their concern about the graying of the industry. People are very concerned that the old guard of seafood is hanging in, but there aren't enough young professionals joining the industry, and they're really worried about that. So we're partnering with the University of New Hampshire. They're developing a new course this fall all around the issues involved in seafood and responsible seafood management. One of the elements of that course is going to be a video where we are going to highlight all of the career choices that are available to young professionals. Many of these kids are taking classes in marine biology or public policy or environmental science, and they're not really sure where they're going to go. We want them to come to the seafood industry. There's a lot of careers that they can choose. They can work in a processing plant, and they can be part of the QA team. They can work for, an aquaculture farm and be one of the resident scientists. They can work for, an entity like you, one of the retailers. You all have departments of people that are advancing responsible practices. There are a lot of career opportunities open for these kids. We want to highlight them and use this video to show them. And we would love for you to participate in this. This is a paid opportunity, and it is open to our sustaining members. I would love to share more information with you. Just reach out to me and we'll talk more about it. In addition to sharing this video in the University of New Hampshire curriculum, we're going to make it available free of charge to all institutes of higher education so that they can share it with their kids. One project that we've been working on for the past few years is around worker voice. We've done a lot of field work and conducted interviews with a lot of people in the industry around the best practices for how to ensure worker voice and grievance mechanisms on certified fishing vessels. That report is in its final stages, and we should be issuing that next quarter. And again, please reach out to me if you would like to have more information about that and have us share that with you. We're really proud of the work that we do in the industry. to make sure that we're listening to the voices and that we're sharing information so that everybody can understand what best practices are and do the work to follow them. Next topic is our marketing campaigns. Last fall, we conducted our first ever consumer marketing campaign around responsible seafood. And it was just really a terrific experience and successful. We had so many media mentions and so many impressions and across a variety of social media channels, ours and our partners. So we're doing it 3 times this year. We're in the middle of March right now, which is Nutrition Month. And if you check out any of our social channels, you'll see all the content that we have up from the nutritionists and others to share information and spread the word about all the benefits of eating seafood. We're doing 2 more this year, one in June and one in October. If you haven't already connected with Elise Avalon at GSA, please reach out. There's her email address. This is a program that we offer at no cost to our retail partners. We can provide you with some social media assets and other ways that we can work together to spread the word about just all the benefits of eating seafood. This next section focuses on some of the things that are happening with our certification. And as you know, GSA develops standards for all of the entities throughout the seafood supply chain, and I want to give you some updates on those standards. What makes us unique amongst a lot of the entities out there? First of all, we're seafood specific. That's really all we're all about. And the other thing that's really important is that we offer assurances to the full supply chain, from the water to the retailer. That's something unique about us. As I showed you that visual landscape of our certification offerings, we cover everything. And that's something that makes us really unique. And it's really important for us as an entity is to be able to view ourselves as this holistic provider of these certification programs. On the top row, you can see all of the certification offerings we have on the aquaculture side. We certify feed mills, hatcheries, farms, and the processing plants. These are all standards that we develop and manage and maintain. On the bottom row, you can see our wild certifications. We have a vessel standard. I'll share a little bit of information about that in the upcoming slide. We don't develop a fisheries standard, but we accept any GSSI benchmark scheme in our BSP program, and that includes the Alaska RFM that I mentioned earlier. And again, we cover the processing plant. And together you can see that the processing plant is where many of this converges, is that the processing plants, many process both wild and farmed. And so for us, covering that entity is extremely important. They're also the main connection with you, the retailers. And why BSP? Why are we covering this wild aspect? We've been around for 25 years and we're known for our best aquaculture practices, our farmed program. And we're just grateful for all of you on this call who've been supporters of the BAP program and who have put it in your supplier guides. We want to make sure that we offer those same assurances on the wild side. 50% of the seafood sold today is farmed and 50% is wild. We wanted to use our expertise to provide those same assurances to your customers. And again, our role here is to ensure that those responsible practices are happening throughout the wild seafood chain. For our wild side, we have a really comprehensive approach. We take everything under consideration, including crew rights and food safety and environmental responsibility. It is a one-stop shop certification for our folks on the wild side. And these assurances just deliver a very powerful message for your consumers that you're choosing and selecting seafood that follows these practices. Speaking of processing plants, our current standard for our processing plant is SPS, the Seafood Processing Standard 5.1. Under development is our new version 6.0. We're really excited about this. We've talked with a lot of folks in the industry, and they've shared with us that they're feeling what they call audit fatigue. They do need to undergo a lot of audits by independent bodies to make sure that they're following practices. I mean, that's understood. But what we don't want to do is to create a standard that is overly onerous, that makes them be audited for things that aren't even applicable to them as a processing plant. So our new SPS 6.0 is modular. We have a core standard that will be GFSI benchmarked, and it covers the fundamental social aspects as well. But the other modules will be things if they don't apply to them as a plant, then they won't have to undergo that aspect of the audit. Um, it's designed to make sure that they're getting what they need to get audited covered, and that they can provide assurances to you and your customers without just making extra work for no reason. Um, One thing that's really important about our standard, I mentioned earlier that what's different about us is that we're just seafood specific. And that impacts us in terms of our core standard for the processing plant. We have a comprehensive food safety element in our standard, and it will be GFSI benchmarked. For you and your suppliers, there's no need for them to get an additional food safety audit. There's also no need for them to get an additional social audit. Our SBS 6.0 is a one-stop shop again, and it covers everything. And we really hope that you roll this out in your supply guides, and that you let your suppliers know that by accepting the SPS 6.0 of our best seafood practices, that they're covered to be a supplier for you. And the big question our retail partners ask is, great, who's certified? We have to make sure that we have a robust supply to cover our consumer needs. And here's a list of our more than 50 facilities that are certified under our SPS 5.1. These facilities are processed both wild and farm seafood. They're certified, and we all the more reason for you to extend your supplier guides to include BSP. Take a look at this list. If your supplier is on there, let us know, and we'll be happy to work with them to convey any needs or information that you have. If your supplier is not on there, let us know who that is, and we'd be happy to reach out to them and work with them. We're very interested in advancing these practices throughout the seafood chain to make sure that you have the product that you want and that your customers demand. Some more update about our standards. First of all, they're all GSSI recognized, our farm standard, our salmon standard, and our new mollusk standard that's in its final stages. Some updates on these include some guidance, in particular around endangered and threatened species, and also around vaccination. If you want more details about the changes to these standards, please let me know. I'm happy to arrange a call for you with our program integrity team to be able to get more information for you about these. But do know that we're constantly looking at our standards. We're constantly updating them to make sure that we're doing all we can to advance practices responsibly. Another standard that I mentioned earlier is our responsible fishing vessel standard. This is for many have pointed out that this has been the missing gap in terms of the seafood supply chain. We can cover the farm, we can cover the fishery, we can cover the plant, we can cover the feed mill, but until now, there's not been an SSCI recognized standard to cover the vessel. Our responsible fishing vessel standard is the first one to cover at-sea operations that's recognized by SSCI. We have a new revision to our hatchery standard that's intended to go live early next month, and it covers some key elements, including risk assessments and effluent parameter limits. and some controls for brood stock. So again, if you have more questions around the updates to the standard, please let me know. I'm happy to connect you with our program integrity team. Another update about our standard is that we have 2 new standards that are coming out. These will be reviewed by our Standards Oversight Committee next month at the Barcelona show. And one is for seafood and one is for the RAS. The RAS standard is a vanguard standard. And what that means is that it's designed to help those facilities that are going above and beyond. They're going above and beyond. They're pushing the limits on existing standards. And this is a way for them to get recognition for their work. And frankly, for us to look to the future as to what may be incorporated in future baseline standards. Under development, my gosh, we have had more conversations about feed recently. Everybody is concerned about this, and rightly so. Many entities are looking for responsible feed ingredients, and it's not just seafood. This feed is being used by poultry, by beef, by pork. So the need for feed is real. Our new standard under development is addressing the issues that you, the retailers in particular, are letting us know that are important to you, including deforestation and greenhouse gas emissions. We're also working right now behind the scenes to develop a working group for some of these feed producers to be able to discuss these issues more in depth. If you're interested in participating as a retailer, please let me know, and I will connect you with Steve Hart in our market development team, who is leading that effort for us. That's the end of my prepared presentation. What I'd like to do now is share with you this particular video that highlights a BSP, a Best Seafood Practices certified company called Atlantic Capes. And I can tell you all the reasons why our producers are choosing certification, but the folks at Atlantic Capes do a really good job. And I'd like to share the video. After that, we'll come back and I'll answer your questions. Thanks, I can see you're already putting them in the chat. So Sean, if you would like to go ahead and share this video, then we'll come back for questions.
Atlantic Capes is about 400 employees in multiple sites from a processing standpoint. Then we have 26 vessels in our fleet. Our products are distributed everywhere. We ship all over the world. We've always been progressive in sustainability and food safety. What I liked about originally the seafood processing standard was that it encompassed sustainability and environmental impact and social welfare and food safety, quality, and legality. With the idea that if we were the first in line for this, it would be fully integrated into our system when this was accepted by industry, which is happening. Every year it seemed like there was another required certification. So after years of working under a different GFSI scheme, what I found was that scheme and some of the other ones were sort of forced to homogenize themselves to appeal to a broad category of food. So the thing that I found very appealing about SPS, Seafood Processing Standard, is that it took away a lot of the waste that we found ourselves. We were doing meaningless tasks and documenting meaningless things in seafood because it was in the standard, because it had to be there for rice or chicken or whatever. And this really pared it down, but not only did it pare it down, it expanded on the seafood side of it. So I think we have under the SPS standard, I think that we run a better program that is virtually all relevant. The motivation for RFVS was always to attain BSP, with the selfish goal of being able to streamline all of these different standards and schemes into a single box and be world-class at all of them.
So to prepare for the RFVS audit, I boarded every vessel that we had. Some of the environmental side of it we had already covered, so it was easier to accomplish that anyway. But overall, it is a thorough audit of a vessel from top to bottom.
I think that the writing is on the wall for where we all have to be in the very near future, because it's the right thing from an environmental standpoint and social, but not only that, but from a customer demand. What are our customers going to be telling us that we need to be a vendor?
In talking with fishermen, I think a lot of them worry about the future, as does anyone in any industry. Everyone, I think, is working much harder than they used to ensure that these fisheries exist and continue to exist so that everyone has a future.
Thanks, Sean, for sharing that. I'd like to open this up to questions. And what I can do is show our question list and be able to run through them. The other thing I want you all to think about is, what would you like to see in upcoming calls like this? What would be important for us to share? And I would love that feedback from all of you. All right, let's talk about some of these questions. This one, I'm not sure I understand. It looks like it was submitted by Steve Phillips. Steve, can you share what you mean by this under the new 6.0? Who determines what portions are applicable? Can you give me more information on that? I'm not sure that I understand that one. Steve, your next question is, are we actively engaged with GDST? And if so, how so? We are certainly aware of and in communication with GDST. We don't have a formal engagement with them. I would like to learn from you what you think would be important for us on this. What would you look for us to engage in? How would this impact you and how would it help you? Please let me know about that. And then I'd be happy to talk further about that. And Steve Phillips again, is there a benchmark standard for ready-to-eat products cooked on vessel? We do not have a GSA benchmark standard for products prepared or processed on vessel. That is not a standard that we have right now. Who else do I have a question from? Steve, you have 3 questions, and some of which I can't answer until I get more information from you. And again, feel free to contact me directly if you would prefer to get more in-depth conversation on some of these. We would like to learn more from you about these and why these are important to you. Again, not everybody likes to submit questions at a public forum. I get that. But you certainly are able to contact me directly. And again, if I can't answer your question, I'll find the right person within the company who can. And we want to make sure that we continue this dialogue. Okay, here we go. You had said that certain portions of the standard that were not necessarily applicable to all processors. Okay. Do we determine what portions? Steve is saying, I can't figure out if there's a way to speak. Yeah, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, you do have to type. So thank you. Here's a one scenario. There are sections of our standard that cover working with live animals. And if your processing plant does not have any live animals, if you're not let's say you're processing all headed and gutted fish, then there's no need for you as a processing plant to go through that section of the standard. So it's really based on what the processing plant itself does. It's not something that we determine or that the processor determines. It's based on what they do for work. I hope that answers that question. Okay, Steve, I'll publish that. Does anybody else have questions? And Steve, I'm more than happy to connect with you directly. Our last slide shows my email address. Oh, Steve's trying to determine if there are loopholes. That's an interesting question. Let's connect with that. And in terms of the loopholes, that's something that I would like to hear your thoughts about. We are in the midst of planning some pilots for this new standard, and that's an interesting angle to look at. So perhaps we can talk about those pilot programs and things that you would like to see us conduct in there to give you some assurances about that. And great, Steve, I agree if we can catch up offline. And so perhaps the next slide, if nobody has questions, Sean, you can share. Thank you. So this is how you reach out to me directly. And this is my mobile number, and that's my email address. I'm happy to catch up with you individually about things that are important to you. And again, please let me know what you would like to see in future updates on these calls. We're committed to doing them quarterly. We're committed to making them useful and valuable for you. And together, we're just committed to our partnership. And thank you very much for all that you do to help us build trust in seafood and to advance these responsible practices throughout the world. So thank you, everyone, for participating. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to working with you more.